Today we're going to be talking Kubota and New Holland tractors, so stay tuned. Hi, this is Paul from CountryCraziness.com. If you're interested in tractors, post-frame construction, and homesteading, well, you've come to a good place. Why not subscribe, tap the bell, and join in on the conversation. Today I have Neil Messick with me from Messick's Equipment. Neil, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
I've got 3 questions for you today, and I'm going to save the biggest one for last. Some people are aware of the fact that last year was a great year for tractor sales, and there's been some concern about inventory in that period of time. How are things looking at this point in terms of inventory? Is everybody getting caught up yet?
So on the subject of supply chain and inventory levels, you don't have to open your eyes very much to different industries and stuff to find that there's a lot of businesses and places in the economy where things are a little upside down right now, and unfortunately our business has kind of become one of them. If you look at our history here over the last year or so, when COVID first started making it into the news and people were really concerned and were at home, we got very, very quiet in early spring at a time that we're generally very, very busy. That quickly changed. Once people started getting out a little bit more, doing more work on their properties, construction starting back up again, farm prices stabilized after some initial disruption, we became very, very busy. And you'll notice that if you kind of pay attention to industry news and trends, most of our industry has experienced record sales or so for the last several quarters now. That has led to a dramatic issue with inventory. So we're sitting here right now in about February, and the easiest way that I can explain this is to look at months of supply. So we use months of supply, kind of the amount of inventory that we have available sitting on the ground versus what our annual sales look like, as kind of our indicator for how much inventory that we have sitting here at any given time. Generally right now in about February, when we're going to be heading into our spring selling season, we usually like to have about 8 months of supply on the ground. Right now, we're sitting in the neighborhood of about 8 or 9 weeks of inventory. So I have about 1/4 of the amount of stuff sitting here available on the lot than what I would typically like to have. Now, kind of the flip side of that, the funny part of it is that we continue to sell a lot of stuff, and you'll see our sales and a lot of the industry sales continue to be at really healthy numbers. And what that is telling you, and what we see here happening today, is that most equipment today right now is being pre-sold. So guys are coming in, they're picking out that piece of equipment based on the couple of things that we have out here on the lot to look at, and making that purchase and putting money down on a piece of equipment that's going to be coming into them in the future. So when we have a tractor trailer truck pull up to one of our stores and start unloading, generally 40 to 50% of the equipment coming off of that truck is already sold and spoken for. So it's left us in this interesting situation where things continue to be really busy. A lot of people continue to get tractors. The place that you just get stuck right now is if you want something today, right? Because that just doesn't work out that way. You have to pre-plan. You have to figure out what you want, put a deposit down, and wait for it to come in before we can get everything together and prep it for you.
My second question is, if someone has their eye on a particular make and model of tractor and it's not in stock, how long could they expect before that tractor would be available for them?
I have a multifaceted answer for you for this one. So when you go through and you buy a piece of equipment, these are generally fairly complicated, customized transactions, right? It's not like we only have to find a tractor for you. There's usually tires and a loader selection and buckets and implements and hydraulic kits and all that stuff that goes together to make a complete package. As far as the base unit goes, I would say for most retail orders, we got some stuff on the lot now today, but 30 to 60 days for the most part if we're putting down a new retail order from a manufacturer waiting for it to come in. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be complete at that point. There's certain implement companies right now that I know that are running as much as 8 and 9 months behind in getting filled for like dealer stock orders and that kind of stuff. So that the retail order is handled a little bit differently. It's given a priority. It's filled more quickly. Stock orders will kind of sit in the system as those retails continue to be filled. So that's kind of where we're at today. It's that importance of, figuring out what you want and placing that retail order and waiting for that stuff to come in. So 30 to 60 days for most of your base tractor components, but don't be surprised if certain hydraulic kits and that kind of stuff drag on a little bit longer. So we right now have a lot of half-finished transactions, right? We've got a lot of people that we've gotten a tractor and a loader and gotten it out to their property so they can work, but we might have that machine coming back in a couple of weeks or months once we get a third function kit in or a specific implement.
And finally, as many people know, the National Farm Equipment Show has been canceled this year because of COVID. But if they were having the show and I was to walk into the Kubota and New Holland exhibits, what are some of the things that they'd be talking about?
So in regards to the equipment shows, I think you need to think a little bit about what those equipment shows have become. So there was a point where those events were used as a point for manufacturers to introduce new products and release new things and kind of make a hubbub about their news. But with today's media environment, that's changed now. So those announcements tend to come out at many times throughout the year. They're going to release new products and tease new stuff, and it usually comes out on the internet, right? It trickles out on their Facebook pages and their YouTubes and that kind of stuff, and it's not so much about those shows anymore. The very same thing could be said about our dealer meetings. I mean, when we get together with the manufacturers in order to look at new equipment ordering and that kind of stuff for the year, that tends to be the point that those new models and that kind of stuff are introduced. So I don't think we're going to miss a whole lot as far as new models go, but for us, the real value in those events and the things that we're going to miss about it is the social aspect of it. It's the time to get out, to meet customers, to see the people that we work with, to interact with companies and factory people and that kind of stuff that kind of sets the tone for us for the year with a lot of times. It helps us know what our selling season is going to look like, and it's a good information gathering thing. So you'd be surprised the amount of money and expense that goes into attending those shows and bringing the equipment and setting everything up. Very little machinery is actually sold there, and very little of this, marketing blitz happens anymore. More than anything else, it is a social event. Interestingly enough, our biggest show here in our geographic area is the Keystone Farm Show held in York, and that was held this year. Happened back in January, and definitely was different. It was kind of a different tone, a different, feel than usual. A lot less moms pushing strollers around and that kind of stuff, a lot less attendance from the general public. But a lot of people who are in our industry and buying equipment and that kind of stuff did attend that show, and it was actually pretty successful. So could be done, but unfortunately, having big gatherings like that just brings along a certain amount of baggage this year, and it's certainly not something we're seeing a lot of.